We are live. We are live. Welcome to an emergency live show. PATC. Clemson has taken significant steps towards, well, looking at all their possible conference realignment options. And they took the significant step 6 months ago. Welcome to college football. Peek around the corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Come on, step on in. Step on into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend. With your comments in the chat and with your phone calls later in the show. Emergency live show. We were going to do one later tonight. I've been working on a show. In fact, in the monologue, we're going to do the hot seat. Who is on among the coaches right now? Who is sitting on the hot seat? We're going to go through an article 247. We were going to do that yesterday, but we had to push that aside. We are going to go through the hot seat list in this emergency live show. But first, let me thank all the people who arrived early in our show today. And then we got to get to it. CBS, Dennis Dodd, significant steps by Clemson. And it was done 6 months ago. It's being reported today, just now, breaking news, CBS Sports. But the step that Clemson took was 6 months ago, right when Florida State was making all that noise. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. October has been a very busy month in the Holy Smokes Theater. You see, at the stage, the center of the stage is Florida State. They've been there alone themselves, just like Colorado has been. We now at PATC, for the very first time in the Holy Smokes Theater, when it came to the Big 12 drama and now the ACC drama, for the very first time, we're going to have two universities, two standing right next to each other at the center of the stage. There was reasons publicly and privately that we put Clemson at the side of the stage, just like Arizona was when Colorado was filling the center of the stage alone. Now we cannot have Clemson at Clemson is right with Florida State at the center of the stage. In the first row is North Carolina. Notre Dame's in the fifth row. In the sixth row is Tony Petitti standing next to NBC, and there's a pair of blue and white hockey skates sitting next to Tony Petitti. And the rest of the Magnificent Seven schools are sitting in the 15th row. Peter Collins is in the balcony overlooking the stage on the left-hand side. He's got his own VIP section. And in the next box, in the VIP section, is Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner. The movement, Clemson, now is in the center of the stage. And we started this, it was a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. At the start of October, we said that October, there's going to be reports coming out and things are significant. The chatter behind the curtain, some of it we can't get further into. Some of it we were able to so far this month. This development that we're going to talk about, we did not know at PATC. We didn't have it. I'm guessing probably no one else had it, or they had it and they couldn't report on it. What I can say in general terms is the chatter with Clemson is hot. That's why we had them at the side of the stage. The chatter with North Carolina is getting warmer. That's why we have them in the first row. And of course, Florida State is at the center of the stage. Let's get to the article. I think maybe a lot of people here in the chat do not know this article just broke. Let me, and thank for Bearcat Steve that gave me the heads up. Right when this article broke, Steve had his head on a swivel. Bearcat Steve, he sent it to me, and we had to go live. First of all, let me thank everybody for coming on in. John Till, thanks for coming on in. T. Duck, Bucky Irvin, thank you. Matt Neeson, hello, Greg, Go Cyclones. Bill G, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Bill. Eisman 57, Hot Guys in the house. KW, KSU, Wahoo, thanks for coming on in. R. Webb, Holy Smokes is in the house. Hagen is in the house. Bill Lubbock, thanks for all coming on in. Trent Brown, finally able to attend a live show. Bear at Steve with the article. Jeff Olson, the Evil Badgers in the house. Anthony Carlson, what's up, people? Bruce Harris, Boomer. Want to talk about hot seat? Let's talk about Lincoln Riley. He has the same record as Clay Helton in the first 2 years. We will go over the 247 hot seat, and then we'll get into your comments. We'll get into your phone calls again. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. If you like the content, smash that like button. It helps us with the algorithm so much. Share the video with your family and friends. Word of mouth is great. And if you want to donate to the channel to help us keep the lights on, hit that $ sign with a comment. and we'll get to your comment as fast as possible. Let's get to the breaking story. No, can't waste any more time. That's why you are here, to talk about the breaking story. Clemson hires prominent media consultant to further explore ACC status and conference options. That is, let's be straight with this. That's Big Ten and SEC. No move is imminent, but the Tigers are covering their bases. This is a very short article. I provide a link in the description. There's going to be more coming out on this. No move is imminent. Like declaring that Clemson is going to be looking for a settlement with the ACC again. We were told December 26, 2022 to look for this stuff to happen in the first quarter of 2024. And that has been told to us over and over and over again. And we'll see. We'll see how accurate that is. Again, we were told that on December 26th. We were actually just told that on December 5th. We were told that a couple times, but we did not report it to you all until December 26th, 2022. The Tigers are covering all their bases. Again, Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. Clemson has hired noted sports media consultant Chris Bevilacqua. And again, as you know, your host cannot pronounce names, can't even talk. So I apologize to Chris and everybody else. I'm just going to call Chris Bevilacqua unless somebody, with your phone call, can tell me how to pronounce the name accurately. Clemson hired consultant Chris to further explore its conference alignment options. That's what he was hired for. CBS Sports has learned while the move doesn't indicate an imminent move out of the ACC for Clemson, the hiring of Bevilacqua is seen as a significant development. Ladies and gentlemen, again, imminent move out of there is no imminent move out of the ACC. I cannot wait to read your comments. I cannot wait for you guys to give me a call on this emergency live show. I really want to know what you guys and gals are thinking. Because for me, and for everybody I've talked to, there is no imminent move. There is imminent possible action, though. Action and move out of the ACC and action are two different things. I think everybody has to keep their head on a swivel in regards to the potential next action. Not successful move. That's going to take a while, I believe. PATC believes. People we've talked to believe. And you know what? Maybe we're all wrong, but I don't think so. Imminent move out of the ACC? That might not, I don't even think that's possible. Maybe it is, but the next action? Now, we're not even got to the good part yet. CBS Sports has learned while the move doesn't indicate an imminent move out of the ACC for Clemson, the hiring of Bevilacqua is seen as a significant development. The 60-year-old innovator has been at the cutting edge of valuing conferences and schools, both with the networks for media rights conversations and within leagues during ongoing realignment proceedings. This guy's been at the cutting edge, valuing conferences, schools, with the networks, in having media rights conversations within leagues during ongoing realignment proceedings. This guy knows what's going on in and around. When it comes to networks, when it comes to schools, he knows the value of Clemson, what networks would value Clemson, what conferences would value Clemson, at what level, at this time and place in the media market. Bevilacqua, again, I'm mispronouncing the name. I apologize to everybody. Was brought on board by Clemson. Get this, the PATC money shot of this very short but impactful article. The man was brought on board by Clemson approximately 6 months ago, which appears to align with Florida State's public complaints about the ACC and the league revenue distribution. Clemson, there's Miami, which I think we're going to hear more about. Clemson, Miami, and North Carolina are among the ACC schools with similar concerns, though none have been outspoken with their complaints, not like Florida State. Quote, "That's not to suggest anything is imminent," Clemson Athletic Director Graham Neff told CBS Sports regarding the school's concerns about ACC revenue distribution. Bevilacqua has been a leading expert assisting schools and conferences throughout the realignment process. He founded CSTV, which eventually became the CBS Sports Network. In addition, he helped launch the Mountain West Network and the Pac-12 networks. In 2016, he assisted the Big 12 in its consideration of the 11 expansion finalists who made the presentations to the league. The league ultimately decided not to expand at that time. In 2018, Bevilacqua launched Simple Bet, an in-play sports gambling leader. Bevilacqua Helvant Ventures remains a leading media consultant. Early in his career, Bevilacqua was CEO of creative artist agency Sports Media Ventures, which served as a media rights advisor to sports and entertainment companies. In that capacity, he worked with the Big 12, the Big East, and Conference USA. Insiders continue to insist the ACC Grant of Rights is ironclad. ACC schools are bound to that agreement for the next 13 years. To address revenue concerns stated by some of the conference's most prominent programs, the ACC earlier this fall agreed to expand, adding California, Stanford, SMU beginning in 2024. Those schools made significant revenue concessions to make the move. The expansion also serves as a potential backfill in case there are future defections. The Action Network, Brett McMurphy, reported in August that rights holder ESPN can renegotiate its contract with the ACC should the conference membership drop below 15 members. That contract currently runs through 2036. That's the article. That is the article. The big part is this gentleman, Chris Bevilacqua, was hired by Clemson to explore conference alignment options. He's got all the experience in the world to do this, and he was hired approximately 6 months ago, which appears to align with the Florida State's public complaints about the ACC and league revenue distribution. 6 months ago. A lot of work gets done in 6 months. A lot of work. This This is big news. Big breaking news on this Tuesday afternoon. Clemson now is at the center of the stage. They made this hire 6 months ago. We should have had them on the center of the stage a while back. We did not. But they are at the center of the stage with Florida State. They made the hire. Now, remember, when you make a hire like this, it takes time to make the hire. It takes time to make the hire. So Clemson was forward thinking and getting somebody on board with their job to go over Clemson's options, their status, what their value is with the media market, media companies, and other potential conferences in realignment. So Clemson was looking at this 7, 8, 9 months ago. And of course, Florida State, that goes right inside what Florida State was doing, talking about in February. And of course, we gave you the information on December 26th that Florida State was going to talk about this in a couple months from now. And they did. So Clemson is right with Florida State. Now, as we have talked about, people have talked to us here at Peek Around the Corner, Clemson does things differently than Florida State. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong. They're completely different personalities. I cannot tell you how many times we've been told this. Completely different. They're both ACC schools. They're both whatever. Same region of the country. But the people that are in how they do their boardroom meetings, Clemson is all buttoned up. Very, very, very conservative. They go right by the rules, and Florida State does not. And then Florida State, as you can see, their personalities, Peter Collins, they came out in front, and Clemson's trying to do everything behind the scenes. But things are starting to leak. Things are starting to break. Reporters have certain information. Some of it they cannot spill. Some of it they do not want to spill yet. Why was it the time for Dennis Dodd to spill this? Did he just get this information? How did he get this information? Was he given the okay to put out this information? I don't know. I do know that there's a reason why a few weeks ago we started talking about the Holy Smokes Theater ACC drama almost, not every day, but every 3 days. Because the chatter behind us, behind the curtain, I'm telling you, it reminds me of all the stories we've done here at Peek Around the Corner. It reminds me of the Big 12, the Colorado chatter. Before that broke in articles. The chatter, of course, we were basically the only ones who had the USC to the Big Ten, talking to the Big Ten. I put it out there 3 months on Twitter before we had this YouTube channel. The Los Angeles Times did an article on us. It's the same thing. It's the same increase in chatter. A little bit of there, a little bit this, a little bit that. It's you get a little piece here and a little piece there. Things are getting hot. Very, very, very hot. 6 months. You've been hired 6 months. He's given a lot of information to Clemson. This Chris Belavacqua, 6 months. Approximately 6 months. He has given information to Clemson, which means he's been talking, right? Indirect communications with the Big Ten, indirect communications with the SEC media companies. He's gathering all this information. And Clemson has this information. They are more aware than ever where they stand, what they can do, what type of settlement they could reach that would still, with the ACC, that could still benefit Clemson. That's where this train is heading. We do not believe this is going to be an eyeglass on the gore, trying to figure out an out to the gore. This is going to be a settlement that hopefully everybody can gain through a settlement. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for Clemson, for Florida State, for North Carolina, for Miami. It's going to be difficult for these schools to get a settlement that they can go through, that benefits them long run, and that will benefit the ACC schools that aren't going to have a spot in the SEC, in the Big Ten, or in the Big 12. But this guy's been on the job for 6 months. That means the train, the information Clemson has received, they might not need any more information. They probably don't need any more information. Graham Neff said, this does not indicate that any move is imminent. Probably not. It's probably going to take through November and December into January or February or March, right? I can't wait to get to your comments and thoughts on this. Big story. Big story. Let me, before we get to your comments, it's going to be a negotiated settlement. I think so. We got a long ways to go, but things are happening behind the scenes. And this is just more indication of it. Let me get to the story, and then we'll get to your comments and phone calls about the ACC story. We got to go through the hot seat. This is a story that we had all ready for yesterday, but the Michigan story keeps developing. By Brad Crawford, 247 Sports, the Heat Index, tracking Sam Pittman, Tom Allen, Jimbo Fisher, college football hot seat coaches. We're not going to go through the whole article. We're just going to go quickly through this. Tom Allen, temperature setting is scorching. The head coach of Indiana, buyout if fired, is $20 million. The writing is on the wall for Tom Allen, who has lost 20 of his last 22 games. The Hoosiers could potentially move at the end of November in what feels like an inevitable decision forthcoming. Even though it's $20 million, Indiana's probably going to do it. Tom Allen, the team, the program is going nowhere, unfortunately. Rutgers rushed for 276 yards, dominated Indiana. They've just been getting crushed. Sam Pittman, very disappointing year. The temperature setting is hot, according to 247 Sports. A buyout is $16.1 million. A lot of money, but something Arkansas can handle. Things turn rather quickly for the season for Sam Pittman. They're losing all those close games, Arkansas. He just fired offensive coordinator Dan Enos Sunday. 6-game losing streak. It's starting to feel like the end of Scott Frost's Nebraska tenure. A team that's always a few plays away. 1-9. The Razorbacks are 1-9 in their last 10 one-possession games under Pittman. Based on what we've been told, how Arkansas ends its season ultimately determines Pittman's job status after the finale at home against Missouri. Jimbo Fisher. I don't think Jimbo Fisher's going to get let go. His temperature's warm. His buyout is $76 million. As the article indicates, there does seem to be the Bobby Petrino hire did seem to work. This is going to get Jimbo Fisher another year. That buyout number is going to get lower. I think it's pretty good, pretty obvious that Jimbo Fisher is going to stay another year. And then finally, Brent Pry of Virginia Tech. 247 Sports says that it looks like Brent Pry is going to remain at least another year with the Hokies because, well, there just isn't the interest inside Virginia Tech to get rid of him after 2 years. They want to give him more opportunity. They're 3-4 this year, so the temperature setting is cool. I skipped through most of that article. I just want to touch upon it. Tom Allen, Sam Pittman right now are the two that are really on the hot seat. Other ones, the seat's warm. I think Neil Brown's seat is very warm. I don't think Daniel Holgerson's seat is warm because I don't think Houston is going to get rid of the head coach the first year in the Big 12. I don't think that's a possibility. But that's just my opinion. Give me yours in the comments section and in the phone calls. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now. Clemson, Holy Smokes Theater. Clemson's significant development. Breaking news, CBS Sports, Dennis Dodd. They hired a gentleman with all the experience in the world 6 months ago that just happened to coincide with Florida State. With Florida State being awfully vocal, Clemson hired an individual to look at Clemson's options going forward in realignment. Good afternoon, Kurt. Again, we'll go through it real quick. An article just released, Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. Clemson hired noted sports media consultant Chris Bevilacqua to further explore its conference alignment options. And Clemson hired him 6 months ago. 6 months ago. Let me open up the phone lines. 763-260-1333. The lines are now open. You can talk about Clemson. You can talk about Michigan. You can talk about the upcoming games this weekend. You can talk anything about college football. And I got to tell you, we're going to do our picks probably tomorrow against the spread. I'm at 29-32-2. PATC Communities at 25-36-2. So we both got a lot of work to do. Give us a call, 763-260-1333. Tony says Jimbo isn't going anywhere. I don't believe this. I think he's safe for this year. I think he's safe for this year. Pittman buyout drops to $5 million if he has back-to-back losing seasons. I did not know that, Go Black 45. I'll take a look at that. Thanks for the information. I appreciate it. So Clemson and Florida State are pretty much in lockstep? I think so. I don't think there's collusion.
Call from
JD.
Thank you for calling. The floor is yours. Clemson made an internal hire 6 months ago to look at all their options. They got a guy who knows inside and out the value of the conferences, the media companies, what Clemson would be valued. 6 months ago, JD. That means Clemson has the information they need right now. And so does, I'm sure, Florida State. What's your feelings on this breaking story?
Yes, sir. We'd heard little bits and pieces about some of the inner workings at Clemson and North Carolina and other places. It wasn't this much information, but I think the reason, and Clemson is not having a great season by their standards. And they want to make sure to secure their spot. You follow me?
Yeah.
So it's a good time to leak these stories. Is Clemson okay? If they had a bad season, are they still okay? Are they still a reputable brand? Absolutely. Are
yes.
they a desirable brand?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This season isn't going to devalue them. Next season, the season after that, would not devalue a brand like Clemson. It did not devalue Florida State, and I don't care who says what. Florida State's brand has not been devalued over the last 10 years. That's not how things work. Then let me just say that.
By some people's standards, yes, it was. Maybe not by the Big Ten, but by the SEC, FSU's brand had been devalued. It had. I mean, I remember a few episodes ago that you were talking about something happened in September with the SEC's interest in FSU. The SEC's always had an interest in FSU. But FSU insiders, they were talking before the season, and they're just like, they expect the success that they think that is coming and the ratings that FSU will be getting will open a lot more eyes. And that's exactly what's happened. It's not just, oh, yeah, FSU is a great brand. No, FSU is one of the premier brands. Mm-hmm. And that's what got the whole SEC really back in the mix again. Not just casually interested, like absolutely interested. And yes, sir, I'm driving. I'm always driving.
Yeah, that's okay.
but yes, sir. I think it's, if you're having a season that's not up to your typical standards, like Clemson, you got to get your name in the news. And,
So that's why you think the leak happened at this point?
Well, I think it's a reasonable possibility is what I'm saying.
God, I would agree. Reasonable. Yep.
And who knows? This could have been planned, but there's not much going on the FSU side. I mean, there's just weeks ago, some of the insiders were still talking. They're just not saying much. At least they're not saying it on the boards that I see.
Yeah.
And then there's people outside of social media that I know that are very, very well connected, and they're just like, man, they're seeing people at tailgates, they're seeing people at games, and they're in the same room with the decision makers. Nobody's talking at all, but everybody's very confident. So that's why some people suggest that either the decisions have already been made or they have been presented the options that they want, and they're just waiting. And like you suggested, the easiest exit possible, the least expensive exit possible. Mm-hmm. And that's where we are. Exits have been secured. It's just, let's get out of here for a little extra cost as possible. And I think that's where we stand.
Yeah. I wonder if Florida State made a same type of hire. Maybe they hired a consulting firm. Both. Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just, I'm wondering if Clemson knew that. Let's say Florida State did. Let's say maybe Clemson knows about it, or vice versa. Maybe Florida State has known all this time that Clemson has hired a media consulting firm. I know when you hire a consulting firm like that 6 months ago, you got a whole lot of information that you did not have 6 months ago.
Florida State did that back in 2022, shortly after, either shortly before or shortly after the USC UCLA announcement. I do know that.
Got it.
I mean, it's been a year and a half at least, and because right before the 2022 season, Michael Alford was throwing out articles on or postings on social media talking about FSU's brand. how much viewership, just the value of FSU's brand. They were doing that periodically last fall. And so they were preparing. They knew they'd have a pretty good season last year. They didn't know they'd win 10 games, but they knew they'd have a pretty good season. So it's been very strategic in this. And again, a lot of people will talk about the way FSU has approached this. FSU knew they had to get out in front and create this environment. I don't think a lot of these other schools were that surprised, or I don't think Clemson was surprised. But anyway, we can get off on them.
Well, that's another good point. I mean, okay, so we have this breaking news by CBS Sports, Dennis Dodd. Was this possibly leaked? Just another Clemson letting everybody know that they've been on the train for a while. We had that report coming out a month ago about Clemson and how I think it was very late September. Yep, very late September. In a Clemson digital press state newspaper, where they said Clemson is, looking at their options basically.
Sure.
That may be just another part of this where it's like Clemson's just letting everybody know. No surprise here. The train is on the tracks.
Teams are competing for spots behind the scenes right now.
Yeah.
That is known. Teams are competing for spots. Now, not all of them are ready to jump. So, is this, like you say, is this just them reminding everyone, hey, we're here and we're ready to go? Or is it something a little more imminent and they're just, preparing the way? It could be reporters asking, hey, not like it's a slow news day or anything, but have we heard anything? Can we report anything else? Because Realignment right now drives the car in college football media.
Mm-hmm.
And but yes, sir, it could be a lot of different things, but it just I don't think there's any doubt that Clemson wants their name out there. Kind of helps distract from losing to Miami. Yes, sir. So it could be a lot of different things, but no, I think you're absolutely correct. There's not much coming from the FSU side. I think a lot of decisions will be made before the end of the year, but I'm not sure how many announcements would be done or would be made until 2024.
Yeah.
From the FSU side. And again,
I think so.
And so. And I'd love to know who your FSU money perch is, because I do know that it's been long for months, and I'll wind this down here.
Yeah.
For months that it's been known that the boosters prefer the SEC. A lot in the administration would prefer the Big Ten. We really don't know which way that's going to go. It'll be interesting to find out. But again, I'm thankful as an FSU fan that we got it turned around in enough time before major changes happen in the next few years, because now we have options.
Yeah.
And so very, very thankful that we know we're gonna be okay, even though we might be stuck in the ACC till 2026 or 2027. As long as we know we've secured our spot, we're okay. And I think the announcements, like you say, will come next year. But we'll still be here for a little bit. But as long as we got a seat in the plane, we're okay. But anyway,
appreciate it, JD.
All right, have a good day.
Thanks for the call, man. Mr. Seminole. Jim Bagley, keep up the good work, Greg. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Bagley. Your super chat and others is what keep the lights on. We don't have memberships here, so we just barely get by on the donations. So thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate your generosity to this channel. I appreciate you coming on in once again. I know I have a little bit of just a little bit of disagreement with JD and with a couple other people here on the board. Again, nothing wrong with that. That's what we enjoy here. Somebody else said that maybe, I'm trying to find the comment, that the Clemson value might have dropped a little bit because of this. Usually doesn't work that way. Yes, I can see maybe Florida State's value dropped a little bit, especially in the eyes of maybe some fans, but they still get big viewership even during the last 10 years in relation to everything else that's going on, in relation to how much exposure the ACC gets versus the Big Ten and the SEC schools. Clemson's value, it's not like this just because of wins and losses year in and year out. Now, has Nebraska's value gone down a little bit? Yes. But still, they're a decently sized brand school with a huge fan base. They bring in a lot of money. They spend a lot of money. They go to other people's football games. They're a traveling fan. This stuff just doesn't. Florida State value it's big. It's big. That's why I've had, I'm not trying to pick on anybody or any show, but the Monty Show went right into Florida State, just digging at their value for weeks. And I'm like, what is going on? No, Florida State's value is big. Clemson is not as big as Florida State, even though they've had more football success because of other valuables in and around the school. It doesn't mean Clemson's value is big. I'm not, but it just isn't going to just drop off the table because they're not having a very good year up to their standards. It's just not how it works. But anyways, back to the phone call, 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Talk about anything you want to talk about.
Call from
Necromancer Pinball.
to accept.
Menser Pinball. Did I get the name correct?
Necromancer Pinball.
Oh, I'm
restore
sorry.
them.
I'm sorry, sir. Thanks for calling. I'm just going to call you Mr. Pinball. Is that okay?
That works for me. No problem.
All right. New sponsor, Cherry Coke. I just saw your comment there. The floor is yours, sir. What do you got to say?
No, the floor is yours, sir. I'm going to run down the ACC, and off the top of your head, would you please take a wild shot that nobody will ever hold you to at what conference the team will end up in after 2031?
After 2031?
Well,
sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yep. Yep.
Well, after everything happens, we don't know when, right?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to go down by standing right now in the conference, okay?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Florida State.
SEC.
Louisville.
Big 12.
North Carolina.
Big 10.
Duke.
I got no idea. Can you put that down?
No, that's fine. That's fine. Whatever you got for us today is great. You want to take a maybe on it?
Man,
I guess one option could be whatever's left over.
Woo! This is. I'm gonna say I have no idea.
All right, that's fine. Virginia Tech.
I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Big 12.
Okay, Boston College.
ACC.
Georgia Tech.
ACC.
Clemson.
SEC.
Miami of Florida.
Big Ten.
North Carolina State.
No idea.
Virginia.
No idea.
Wake Forest.
ACC.
Pittsburgh.
Big 12.
Syracuse.
ACC.
All right. If you'll just send Virginia Tech to the Big 12, I'll be the happiest guy.
What did I say about Virginia Tech? Big.
I think you said. I think that was another one you passed on.
Yeah, yeah. Just don't hold me to any of this because.
No.
Yeah,
No.
we're people sometimes get what I report and what my opinion are, and they muddle it up, right? I always have to guard against that. I do the only things, Pinball, Mr. Pinball, the only three schools that I would say is more than just an educated guess, a little bit more than educated guess. But again, we're not reporting anything, declaring anything. I'm leaning towards Florida State, Clemson, SEC, North Carolina, Big Ten, and of course, Notre Dame, Big Ten. Those are the ones that there's at least some chatter that, all the other ones I'm just popping off on. Yeah.
So when they talk about the Magnificent Seven, then there's three other schools that must think they know where they're going?
Great question.
Or three or four?
You know what? I think a great question, Mr. Pinball. I don't have the answer. If I had to guess, I would say some of those schools have no clue where they're going to end up. I think the Magnificent Seven, when it was announced by Yahoo Sports, Ross Dellinger, at the time he was at Sports Illustrated, when he reported early that morning on the ACC Media Rights Day that there was 7 schools meeting in a subset group, I listed the 7 schools accurately as a guess. I had no information. I had no idea this was going on. In fact, I started the Breaking News live show taking the big fat L. We had no idea this was going on. Okay? I don't think anyone did. But I guess the 7 schools accurately because politically it would have to be those 7 schools. Right? If there's going to be 7 schools, it would have to be those 7 because of value, obvious value of some of those schools and the other schools that were tied in politically. Like North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, they would have to be among the 7 if North Carolina is going to have these type of talks, if Virginia is going to have these type of talks, if they were looking truly at the possibility of forming their own conference, 17 conference, adding maybe a couple more and getting their own media rights. And they looked into that and blah, 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 blah. And it turned out they decided not. All of that is way too risky. It would not work.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
So I don't think those 7 got together because all 7 knew exactly where they were going to end up. That's my long-winded way of answering your question.
I understand you completely. I want you to know that I have family in St. Cloud, Faribault, and New Ulm. So I want to say shout out to them.
Yes.
And last, my Jayhawks have been bad for you this year. I want to know what you're doing this weekend.
What's the line in that game?
Oh, I don't know yet. It's not going to be good because I don't think Daniels is going to be there this week again.
I don't think he's going to be there either. I said that yesterday, and a bunch of people in the chat said he is going to play. A bunch of Jayhawk fans in the chat said.
I will say that's not what I've been hearing.
That's not what I've been hearing either. So
I think the fans are 50-50. I think the injury is a little bit more. Is a little stronger than that. Yeah.
My record overall is 29, 32, and 2. But I'm 0-4 on Kansas games against the spread.
I know. That's why I'm worried about what you're going to say.
If I didn't take Kansas games at all, I would be 1-8 game above 500. This moron, the fat guy from Minnesota, without the Kansas games, I'd actually be one game above 500. I don't know what I'm going to do.
How would you be doing without any Gopher games?
Well, I got the last Gopher game right, so I might be like 1-2, maybe. I don't know. I think at worst I'm 1-2.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for taking my call. I really
Appreciate it, man.
You're a long-time follower.
Yeah.
Really love your work. Keep it up.
St. Cloud, baby. I went to St. Cloud State College.
Oh, my mom did too.
Yeah, it's the only school that would accept me.
Yeah. You weren't trying hard enough, buddy.
All right. I don't know about that. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care. Bye.
Great call. Big Ten Ted, go Huskies, class of 2016. I am the class of 1991. I shouldn't be saying that they were the only school that would accept me, even though it's true, because I don't want to drag down other alumni like Big Ten Ted. I'm sure Big Ten Ted could have went anywhere he wanted to. I'm sure Mr. Pinball's mother could have went anywhere she wanted to in the years ago. But for my purposes, just telling you the truth, they're about the only school that would take the fat guy from Minnesota. Everybody else, I got the big old rejection letter. Tony, Florida State, Clemson to the Big Ten is great for the Big Ten. Think that's a long shot. Big Ten Ted, fun fact, I got accepted in Nebraska. I choose St. Cloud State. Wow. Throwing elbows in the chat room.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate is on the phone. Mr. Immaculate has got the floor. What do you think about the Clemson story? 6 months ago, Brian. 6 months ago, they made the hire. They got a whole bunch of information sitting before them. What's going on?
I think this kind of puts some water on the whole fire that everyone was really upset with Florida State about what they did, but everyone else is cool because this is all happening at the same time. And while it may not have been visible to us, I'm pretty sure probably word got to the SEC somehow that Clemson was doing this. Would you think?
Geez, I want to answer this question truthfully, but I can't.
If you can't, don't worry. I was just asking your opinion, but I don't want to put you in a bad spot.
Well, no, I'll say this. Now, I'm going to say this. At the time when Florida State made a bunch of noise, went out in public, North Carolina, Bubba Cunningham, came out in public in an interview and basically gave Florida shot and elbow, right? Do you remember that, Immaculate?
Say that again? Sorry.
Bubba Cunningham, when Florida State...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Bubba Cunningham kind of threw Florida State a shot and elbow, saying you shouldn't be really taking this out in public, whatever. I can say this. North Carolina... I'm going to be careful here, but there's reasons why, they have taken measures to know exactly where they stand among the conferences, the market, media companies. I'm not saying they did exactly what Clemson did. I'm not saying they didn't, but North Carolina has been more aggressive. And all this is the reason why Greg Sankey went into the Holy Smokes Theater.
Yeah.
That's all I can say on that. But go ahead.
Okay, where was I?
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No. I always appreciate it because you know things. But basically, yeah, I think that this has all been kind of underworked for a while. They wouldn't have done the public-facing vote if they were just, well, this is where we'd like to go. No, they did that because that's public evidence for something else. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Yep. It's part of a bigger plan. It's just the iceberg part that you see. In terms of projections of where schools go, do I get to give mine?
Yeah, go ahead. Rock
All
it.
right.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm pretty firm on mine, and I think that UNC and UVA go to the Big Ten. Now, reason why I think this is a lot of people don't like Virginia to the Big Ten. And that's fine. That's great. There's also a lot of people that didn't like Oregon to the Big Ten. But as it's come out afterwards, Washington made it pretty clear with Oregon that it was both of us or nothing. In terms of North Carolina going to the Big Ten, I think that they could ask for certain concessions in order to make that happen. They're basically, at this point, if it happens, they would be the southern tip, so to speak, of the Big Ten. And I think that they would want Virginia with them. Otherwise, I'm thinking that they're at least going to threaten the Big Ten that, hey, we could go to the SEC just as well. Neither choice is going to hurt us. And then at that point in time, they might just take North Carolina State with them to the SEC in order to make their state happy. But so that's why I think the Big Ten would fold on Virginia just like they folded on Oregon. And I have UNC and Virginia going to the Big Ten. Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina State, and Virginia Tech. Sorry, Big 12 fans. I got those four going to the SEC.
I'm sorry, Florida State, Clemson.
North Carolina State and Virginia Tech.
Okay.
FSU and Clemson are obvious, I would say. North Carolina State and Virginia Tech. Look, if your expansions are Oklahoma, Texas, Florida State, and Clemson, you really don't need the next two to be knockout football products. Would you agree?
I would agree, everything being even. It's just that SEC's a different.
They are, but Virginia Tech, that's a SEC game day atmosphere.
Yep.
North Carolina State, I would argue that despite the performance on the field, their atmosphere game day is better than North Carolina's.
Yeah.
And they actually have more support in the state than North Carolina. North Carolina is more of like a national brand that people like, but it's more of an elite school. A lot of its followers probably don't even care about football. Whereas North Carolina State is, in my opinion, more of an actual SEC brand. Now, it has a perception right now, but inside the SEC, that perception could change very quickly. Or it could become Missouri or Arkansas or South Carolina. Those are all, Arkansas and South Carolina were expansions too, as was Missouri, and they filled their role pretty well. So that's what I think North Carolina State and Virginia Tech do. It also makes it so that this whole situation can happen because we know that both North Carolina and Virginia government entities have been very vocal about this. So as far as I know, Big 12 fans want North Carolina State and or Virginia Tech. I would too, and I would love to see those schools in that conference. But they're going to face significant challenges at home if they try to go down that route.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So that's why I have that. And then from there, I think the only knockout for the Big 12 is Louisville. I think Pitt's a good look to go there, but from everything we've seen from Pitt fans, they certainly don't want to go there. That could obviously change if all of this movement happens, then they might not want to be in the ACC anymore.
Yeah.
But I'd maybe list it at 50-50. Like, it could happen, but it might not happen.
Mm-hmm. What about Miami, Florida?
Miami, I think that was the thing as part of the Magnificent Seven, and this is something else I wanted to touch upon, is that we had, at one point in time, we talked about this, and I thought the Magnificent Seven was all part of the movement plan. And then Notre Dame got involved. And Miami also lost their stadium play because that guy who was going to push that got in big trouble.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, Miami's value as an expansion candidate has gone down. I mean, it's still a great brand, still Southern Florida, all of that. But you need a good game day atmosphere, and it's just not quite up to snuff, in my opinion. I think that Miami is tied to the hip with Notre Dame. If Notre Dame wants to turn the ACC into kind of a private institution focused league, I think Miami could actually rebuild his brand there. Because think about it, they're going to have winning seasons through that conference every year. I mean, if it's Notre Dame, Miami, Stanford, Duke, you're looking at, like you said, Syracuse, Boston College, Wake Forest, a Rice might get a call up there, a Tulane. So I tend to think that they're kind of stuck there now. Like, things didn't work out their way.
Yeah.
If Notre Dame ever decides that doesn't work out and it wants to come to the Big Ten and they're going to go past 20, then I would say Miami's probably coming with them. Just because Notre Dame will be like, we want them, and Big Ten will be like, okay. Because, I mean, who else are you going to grab at that point if you're going to grab another one to go with Notre Dame? But yes, that's kind of what I'm seeing, and I think the Magnificent Seven thing got Notre Dame. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All righty, man.
It's a very interesting story, man.
Yeah, do you guys go on live tonight then, or?
Not tonight. There's a little complication. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Nate has invited a very prominent, well-known Oregon fan that him and I have gotten into some public debate, and so we're going to have that on the show.
Oh, beautiful.
So,
sounds good.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
We've had some correspondence. It should be pretty good. I think it's going to be nice and,
yeah,
controlled.
Yeah,
but,
it should. Yeah.
It'll be fun. So, I do say to folks, if you haven't checked out the show yet, that's probably a good first one to check out. And if you have, then I would say definitely check it out.
Yeah.
But
All right.
tomorrow night.
Appreciate it, man.
You too. Have a good day.
Great call. Great call. Immaculate, Mr. Hawkeye. I know we're expecting Kurt, I think it's Kurt, right? Kurt to call. Yeah, Big Ten Ted. I mean, if Virginia ended up in the Big Ten, it wouldn't surprise me, but I don't think it's a lock. I'm not sure if North Carolina would insist Virginia to come with them. The Big Ten wants to get south. There's not that. Maryland, what does Fox want to do? We talk about, hold on.
Call from
Kurt, seriously.
Kurt is on the line. I think he's a Seminole fan. The floor is yours, sir. What do you got to say?
Greg, good afternoon. Great show. Love it. Yes, I am a Seminole. This is a great conversation. I think if you take this back to, if I recall correctly, August 2nd, when Florida State Board of Trustees had a meeting that was, I believe, open to the public. There were a lot of comments made, not with a question mark at the end, but with a big fat exclamation point, such as, it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of, or a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And in my opinion, this is largely driven by, the talk of Clemson, Florida State to the SEC. Those are the two, in my opinion, big name brands in the ACC for football. You can argue UNC a little bit and some others, but this is about how many people are tuning in to watch these football games. And right now, especially given Florida State's success in the past 13 games, Clemson's success in the past couple of years, those two speak for themselves.
Yeah.
And if I were a betting man, I would say that both Clemson and Florida State people have been in, discussion with somebody at the SEC about it. I would be willing to bet the SEC does not want the Big Ten gaining a Southern footprint. I think that's been discussed before.
Yes, sir.
But, and given the fact that now Texas has been admitted to the league. I don't, the idea that Florida and South Carolina would be able to kind of block Clemson and Florida State from coming in, I don't think that's an issue anymore.
I agree with you.
So,
yep.
Yeah, and I feel like, like Drew Weatherford stated in that meeting I referenced, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. This is about dollars and survival also for the universities.
Yes.
And the writing's on the wall that the SEC and the Big Ten financially are the most stable. I live in the Southeast. I live in Orlando. And culturally, I love Florida State to the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Financially, I feel like the Big Ten's on, more solid ground. But, things can change. They always do really quickly in college football, as everybody's aware. So I think that this announcement coming from Clemson at this specific time, there's some strategy involved, and I think that the moves are being made, the chess pieces are being moved across the board, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
That the move is going to be made, the announcement is going to be made sooner rather than later. Ooh. That Clemson and Florida State will be making a move to the Southeastern Conference. I don't see really, some of the guys in the chat have mentioned UNC and NC State. I really, I could see UNC bringing something to the conference. But that's, let's just face it, that's a basketball school, and NC State has been the redheaded stepchild in the, the North Carolina triangle for a long time. I don't see what they would bring to the SEC.
Yeah. Now, in that, you talked about the August 2nd Board of Trustees meeting.
Yes.
You're correct. They were, I called it spitting nails. It was uniformity, right? Everybody was aligned in that meeting when they spoke publicly. Everybody in that board meeting, right down the line, was basically saying, take us serious, ACC, take us serious. And then Peter Collins made a comment at the end. He said, you're going to be hearing from us, all of us here, real soon, again, when it comes to this subject of possible realignment. Let's just be frank. Is October 27th the meeting? I'll put it up on the board. There's a board of trustees meeting lined up for October 27th. It's on your screen now, where it says open forum for board of trustees. Mr. Peter Collins, the chair. Or is the soon going to be in the next meeting on November? I believe it's November 10th. That's all lined up at the Florida State University Board. Do you have any feeling on that, the timing of it?
Greg, I wish I had a good answer for you. I don't. You would think maybe with, the announcement by Clemson and the timing with the Board of Trustees meeting on the 27th, that, a couple things may be moving into place for Florida State and Clemson, but I have nothing concrete on that. I'm just a PlayStation All-American, my friend. So I don't know too much about that stuff, but I try to read, the tea leaves when they're available to me. So, but I don't have a concrete answer for you on that. I would love it if an announcement was made, and I would love it if it was an announcement to the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've said this often, and most people disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But I don't think the next announcement, I don't think the next event in this story is an announcement of where these schools are going. I don't even think the next announcement is these schools are out of the ACC. I think the next announcement is them letting the ACC know their intentions of leaving the conference, and they want to now start negotiating. I don't think the negotiating's going. Look, I may be wrong. People I talk to, we may be all wrong. But I don't think negotiations are going on right now at the ACC. I think there's going to be an announcement of intentions to leave the ACC. And I don't think with that announcement, I don't think it's going to be Florida State saying we intend to leave the ACC by July 1st, 2025. And by the way, we're joining the SEC. I don't think that's going to be cobbled together in the same announcement. That's just my opinion. What do you think of that, Kurt?
I would tend to agree that this is probably going to need to move along kind of slowly. I would be willing to bet that Florida State and Clemson probably have a little bit more knowledge that they're not, putting out there right now, as far as the negotiations. An announcement to leave the ACC, I feel like it kind of informally already has been made with the August 2nd announcement, Board of Trustees meeting, I beg your pardon, from Florida State, and then, what the noise from Clemson. So I think those are, kind of your like, hey, wink, wink. We are going to be, actively trying to leave the conference. And like that, I mentioned earlier, this is about football. This is about dollars, and this is about eyes on TV sets. And Florida State and Clemson, at least in the past, let's go back 10 years. Florida State, even with down years at Florida State still maintained the brand name. In the past couple of years, we weren't, before Mike Norvell really got it going, we weren't really drawing too many eyes, but I think they are now. Couple primetime ABC games with Kirk and Chris Fowler calling those. They don't just give that to anybody. So I think both teams are making a statement. Now, Clemson made the wrong statement the other night at Miami, and personally, I don't know which one I love more, seeing Clemson lose. I wouldn't mind seeing Miami lose, but hey, it's a win-win for me. Somebody lost. But Clemson and Florida State are still name brands in the conference. And when it comes to football, I think the ACC as a conference has not made it's not dedicated itself to, the football. I think it's still, a round ball kind of conference. Yeah. And that's crazy. Because football's the driver right now, financial driver. So that's my opinion on that. But yeah, I wish I had something more concrete for you, Greg, but I do not. Like I said, I'm just a PlayStation All-American.
Yeah. All righty, sir. Beautiful call. Kurt, please stick with us. Call us again. Please. Okay, sir?
Will do. Hey, I enjoy it, and this is a great show, and you do a great job. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. It's a beautiful thing. The Seminoles are filling up the PATC chat room, the phone calls. I love it. Again, I'm just checking here. I don't know if I think I'll just skip on that story for now. Likely a lot of negotiations is happening as we speak. AAR. Immaculate said Jim Williams reported on their very show, Big 12 Rival show, that the ACC has already been looking at options for preemptive backfilling. Again, this is part of the reason why this is the reason why the ACC filled in with Stanford, California, and SMU. A preemptive backfill. They want to be able to choose who at least were the first few backfills into the conference to make sure the membership did not drop below 15 members, so they would have to renegotiate their ACC contract with ESPN. Because per the media contract, if ACC membership ever dropped below 15, the ACC can go in and renegotiate. and those remaining ACC schools don't want that to happen. So they did a preemptive strike, a preemptive backfilling of Stanford, California, and SMU. And at the time, people were wondering why. Well, that's going to make it harder. Adding those schools is going to make it harder for Florida State, for Clemson to leave the ACC. And we reported here at Peek Around the Corner that was not the case. Weeks during that whole storyline, we reported that adding schools to the ACC did not create more hurdles, nor did it help the exit ramps of Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and a couple other schools from leaving the conference, because the pathway, the exit ramp for Florida State to leave the ACC did not have to do with the dissolution vote. It never did. That was never really in the cards for Florida State. So adding more members to the conference, making it a higher hurdle, you needed more votes to get dissolution, was not a factor in any of that.
Call from
Steve,
Mr. Bearcat, thanks for the heads up on the story for Clemson. I appreciate it. You kept your head on a swivel. Thank you so very much. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, that's kind of what an old retired guy in Florida does in the afternoon, try to keep his head on a swivel. But anyhow, great. I didn't golf today. It's too windy.
Okay. I'm glad you didn't. No offense.
What's that?
I'm glad you didn't. No offense.
Oh, well, it's really windy here in Central Florida. I love those holes with the wind at my back, but at my age, when the wind's in your face,
yeah,
it's not a lot of fun. Anyhow,
yeah.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but this is being slow walked for a number of reasons. One of the big reasons is, if you don't think for 1 minute that the ACC schools aren't sitting around to see what NBC and Notre Dame's going to end up doing, I think that's a big player in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Notre Dame
and
NBC, again, I sound like a broken record, but
no,
Clemson,
you're keeping us focused.
Clemson and all these ACC schools would like nothing better. Florida State would like nothing better than to see NBC lowball Notre Dame and back Notre Dame into a corner and say, "Your move now, Notre Dame." And the Big Ten and CBS and Fox are sitting there going, "Okay, Notre Dame, you don't like the money you're getting from NBC, your move." And if they move, that could open the floodgates for all the other ACC schools. If they decide we don't want this football agreement anymore with the ACC, and NBC's not giving us enough money, then that's when I think the floodgates open.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you are a broken record, Steven, because you're keeping us focused on really the biggest domino there is on the table, and that is Notre Dame.
I might be totally wrong. I might be 100% wrong, Greg.
I don't think you are.
To me, it is.
If they make a decision before Florida State and Clemson make a decision, it makes Florida State's and Clemson's pathway so much easier. So much easier. Everybody knows that. So, yeah.
And if Notre Dame wants to have their own conference with Stanford and Duke and BC and Syracuse and Miami, fine. But if they decide that, looking at media rights, they might have decided to take a poor NBC deal, because I don't see that conference. Notre Dame, obviously, the name, Miami somewhat, but I don't see a media company gone in and saying, we're going to give you guys X amount of money because you're an academic conference. I just don't see that. even though if Notre Dame's leading the parade, if they can't lead the parade on their own with NBC and they want to decide to, quote, form a new conference, then everybody's going to be talking to Big Brother. Every other conference member in that, quote, academic conference, and don't think for 1 minute Notre Dame wouldn't say, we get the biggest piece of the pie here, everybody. It's us. It's us because of who we are, who we're perceived to be.
Yeah.
I guess is the way I would put it. But I don't think that any of these schools are going to come right out until you see what happens with Notre Dame. I just don't. I could, and you know, and I know, and everybody else knows, the Big Ten would take Notre Dame, and the Big Ten would say, to get to 20, bring whoever you want.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
Bring up a good point. Yeah.
So, anyhow, Greg, just want to touch base with you. I like the afternoon shows, and obviously keep up the good work.
Got it. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the heads up, man. Appreciate it, my friend.
No problem.
All righty, sir.
See ya.
Yeah. Great call by Steven. Hello.
Hey, Greg, how you doing? This is Jim Reese.
I'm sorry. Who's calling?
Jim Reese.
Jim Reese. Thanks for calling again. Jim, can you hold on 1 second?
Sure.
I apologize. It's just there is a very strange story going on that is outside of the college football scope, but it has to do with the university. I just want to put this up on the board. If anybody in the chat can please explain to me what is going on, I'm going to put it up on the board right now. 55 minutes ago, Oregon State University, urgent, Oregon State alert, bomb threat in Starship food delivery robots. Do not open robots. Avoid all robots until further notice. Public safety is responding. 17 minutes ago, Oregon State University puts out bomb threat update. Remotely isolating robots in a safe location. DPS continuing the investigation. Remain vigilant for suspicious activity. What the blazes is that? Again, if anybody in the chat can let us know what vigilant for suspicious activity, isolating robots. Are the robots about to attack? Do they have bombs in them? Let me know what's going on. Very strange story. Jim Reese, I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. The floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Well, Greg, that is a really strange story, and my thought about that, it might have something to do with what's going on in the Middle East right now. You know, me being a former Marine, this and that. That's why we need to stay vigilant.
Yeah.
Because Hamas and Iran has made threats to the United States. So, again, people at Oregon State, be careful, and everybody needs to be vigilant across the country.
Yeah. Wow.
As far as what you're talking about today, I still feel like it's going to be the Big Four going to the Big Ten. And the reason I say that is if ESPN could offer more money to Florida State and Clemson, they would already have known that, right? And they haven't done that. And ESPN is in trouble money-wise. So I think that Florida State, again, if you listen to that board meeting back in August 2nd, they were talking about a lot of research and things like that. Again, that's pointing right towards the Big Ten. And the other thing would be if they're Florida State are kind of like a package deal, Florida State and Clemson. So I think it's Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and Notre Dame to the Big Ten. Virginia, Virginia Tech, NC State, and Miami to the Southeast.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You're being aggressive there, Jim. You're being you're taking the off ramp on other people's predictions. You're doing your own little unique predictions there, Jim. You could be right. You could be. You're either onto something or you're on something, Jim. Let's put it that way.
Well, I'm going back to what like Immaculate did and Melvin did way back in the day when they started talking about the ACC prior to ACC being in the theater.
Yeah.
With that being said, for some reason, like I said, if you're putting together, like you always do, put together the clues, and you start thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Take it back what Peter Collins said on August 2nd about the research Florida State wants to do, that type of stuff. That points right towards the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And again, they have options, and I get that, but I think everybody's waiting for the Notre Dame TV deal. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Where the dominoes will start to fall, but I think it will start falling soon. And I just think North Carolina and Bubba Cunningham and Jim Delaney, talking in the emails way back when, gives you a clue about North Carolina's leaning. And I really think Peter Collins, when he was talking about research, would give me a little clue about what Florida State's leaning are.
Okay.
And so that's my take.
You bring up a lot of great points, man. A lot of great points.
Well, I watch you all the time, Greg, and like I said, I just, this is the second time I called, and I just, be straight what I think, and I could be way wrong. Again, you never, speculation zone and things like that, right?
Yeah, speculation zone, baby. Yeah.
Right. So, but I appreciate your show, and I appreciate your time, but I think your ACC theater is going to continue to expand, and you're going to see more people moving closer to the stage in the next 3-4 months, like you said, January, February, March next year.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jim. Great phone call. Please call again. Thank you for your service.
All right. Thank you, brother, and I appreciate you, man. Take care.
All right, man.
Bye.
Outstanding. Jim went the other way. Jim went the other way on the predictions. He says Florida State, North Carolina, Clemson, Notre Dame, all to the Big Ten. Holy smokes. Kurt Searcy, thank you so much for your generosity. Thanks for the great phone call. I hope you call again. We need more Seminoles calling. Great show, Greg. This conversation about Florida State, Clemson to the SEC of the Big Ten is a lot of fun. The conversation in around Florida State getting to the college football playoffs is a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I'm Greg the Cooler, and I predicted Florida State to the college football playoffs months and months and months and months. I mean, right after last season ended, I predicted Florida State to go to the college football playoffs. So Florida State has to overcome Greg the Cooler, who's starting to freeze up here in Minnesota already. Saturday's game, Michigan State and Minnesota at Huntington Bank Stadium at kickoff. It's going to be about 35, 36 degrees. And we're not even in November. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for USC, UCLA to bundle up, to come visit Minnesota in late October, into November. I hope it's next year. Tony Petitti, do it. Do it. USC and Minnesota is a matchup. USC at Minnesota is one of the matchups. We don't know the date of that game. Make it first week in November. Make it the second week in November. Make it the last week in October. Do it, Tony. Do it. Do it. Do it. Please, just do it. Okay. My begging is over. Kurt Searcy, thank you so much for your generosity. It's donations like Kurt that help us keep us going, because we don't do memberships. We just flat out just do donations. Hopefully we can keep the lights on. Thank you, Kurt, so very much. I appreciate it. USC and Minnesota in the snow. Just do it, Tony. Do it. Gophers 19, Spartans 13. Gophers are favored by 7. Gophers could lose. Michigan State could, who knows? I mean, I don't even know don't even know who's going to be able to even run the ball for Minnesota. All of our guys are injured. We're in a lot of trouble. And we were in a lot of trouble even if we didn't have all of our guys injured. So we're in trouble. Spartans they've just hit the ground. Minnesota could lose to everybody on their schedule the remaining way, or they could beat all of them except for Ohio State. Minnesota could win the Big Ten West or finish 4-8. I mean, Minnesota could lose that game without a doubt. But it's going to be cold. It's going to be tough weather. And I would love it because Minnesota's always got great backs. We got a good offensive line. But all of our guys I think they're all injured. I think all of them are injured. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Crazy story. Oregon State. Something about a bomb threat. Get away from the robots. Get away from the robots. We've got another update. From the Oregon State robots. Bomb threat update. Robots are being investigated by a technician. Stay vigilant and report any incident-related information to 737-7000. Holy smokes. I'm hoping that nothing, I hope it was just a crank phone call. Hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully no evil genius has got robots all ready to blow up. Jeez. Unbelievable. Scary times out there, ladies and gentlemen. Keep vigilant. Keep your head on a swivel. Man, oh man. Beaver robots attacking Oregon Stadium. I don't know. It's Nathan, do you see any current Big 12 schools? No. No Big 10 school is going to go back to the Big 12. It's just too lucrative for the Big 10 schools to stay in the Big 10, all that money, all that exposure, and then you're talking about all that research dollars. They share resources among the research of the faculty. Sometimes they share faculty. Not happening. The only way that could happen years and years and years and years down the line is if the Big Ten fractures. But right now, no one would be willing to, not taking a shot at the Big 12, but the money, the exposure in athletics is too big in the Big Ten for anybody to leave, and plus the research. The incredible research institutions, peers want to stay together. The Pac-12 schools wanted to stay together. And we said that. We just predicted that they wouldn't be able to because of the reality that the media networks did not want that conference to stay intact. They didn't want it to happen. I think robots' heads are literally... I think the robots' heads are literally on a swivel. Okay, so we're going to shut our live show down now. I appreciate you all coming on in. This was an emergency live show. Emergency live show. Clemson, significant development. They hired a gentleman 6 months ago to look at their realignment options, to check out where they fit Clemson with the media companies, with the conferences, their value. 6 months ago, a significant development. Clemson has all the information. I would believe that Clemson now has all the information they need. Nothing is imminent. No announcement is imminent. but it's closing in on that time. Clemson, Florida State, ACC, the drama continues in the Holy Smokes Theater. I want to thank you all for joining us. Before you leave, please subscribe to this channel. Smash that like button if you like our content today. And then go ahead and share the video with your family and friends. Share it across your message boards. PATC, Peek Around the Corner. We're on this story and everything else in college football like nobody's business. Thank you for joining us. Until next time. From all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.